That was sad. And that's the game. I'll probably come back maybe next week and do some of the DLC. Because I have it. But yeah. That's Horizon Zero Dawn. And I gotta say, like, I've heard a lot of very good things about this, and I'm not trying to at all say that this was a bad game. It was very good. But it was one of those things where I think people have talked it up so much that all of a sudden when I get into it, I'm just kind of like, it's not what they talked it up to be. But like I said, it is very, very good. The story was good, the animations were good, the gameplay was good. But when people were saying that it was like, it was their top game for the year, or things like that, like, I don't know, I don't get that. And I mean, granted, there's still a bunch of stuff that I didn't read in terms of like all the data pads and whatnot, but it was good. It was, like I said, as I was playing the game, like, I wanted to know more about what was going on. So that's why when you go into Gaia and it's just all this dialogue, all of these things saying like what happened, you're piecing stuff together, and then all of a sudden it gets all spelled out for you at the end. It's interesting, but but yeah, like, Aloy is a really cool character. I really liked playing as Aloy. Rost was interesting for the little bit that you get to stay around him, but then obviously things happen and Rost is no longer around. Seeing two very different environments. You have not inside a cauldron, or like basically what we're flying through right now as part of the credits. You have this, and then you also have the outside of this, which is like fighting with bows and arrows and using the machines for armor and things like that. Very early technology. However, because I played it in this order, I can't help but draw similarities between this and Mass Effect Andromeda. Like, these cauldrons are just like the Revenant vaults. And all of a sudden, like, I can only make that comparison because of how similar they are in that aspect. Obviously, they're not outside, but when you run into this, all of a sudden you're like, oh, there's new shit here that looks just like Revenant technology. So, I definitely think people should play the game. It took me a while, probably a good maybe 2 or 3 streams, to get used to playing with this again after playing 4 Mass Effect games on PC. So I got way used to using keyboard and mouse. So then to have to play on a console again, and having everything be slower, or it feels slower, because it's not as much of a one-to-one, like flicking around on the mouse. But it is definitely fun. I do think that what I'll do is, in the next stream, we'll not do this whole thing again. The thoughts will be based on the main game. And I mean, I did do some stuff in the Frozen Wilds, but that was more to get the upgrades. But I'll probably end up going back there, because now it's like partially done. And I think it would be useful and actually nice to consider that part of the game also completed. Otherwise, to me, in the back of my mind, it feels incomplete. But it is one of those things that you worry about, and when you start talking about AI, is at what point does the AI see humanity as a hindrance, not necessarily to its growth, but to its core, what is the word I'm looking for? Its core purposes. Because if you give an AI like this a purpose of keeping the planet alive, let's say, and when it all of a sudden deems humanity as a detriment to it, all of a sudden now humanity is under attack by the AI. That's kind of what I see happening here. Is you had all of these AI, the machines being used for military purposes, and then they were able to use as a last resort, able to use biofuel. But if the AI all of a sudden realized that the biofuel is more efficient, it could override that, possibly. And then it comes down to this, and then now you have to create a whole other AI thing, AI network, in order to try and counteract it. And then now we get to this. I mean, it was nice that they showed Aloy coming across Elizabeth, because that's that little bit of closure that she's never had. And now that she knows now that how important she is to everything. And then you see everything that now Aloy's able to do because of her genetics, I guess, and how she's essentially a clone of Elizabeth. Makes her a real big deal. But yeah, I think this is a really cool credit scroll. Hideo Kojima as a special thanks. All right. Secret Agent Mark Cerny? Kearney? Amazing cosplayers and fan artists. Cosplayers are dedicated to what they do, and that's really cool. Like, I know I've seen at least fan art of games that I've helped work on, and when you see the fan art, you're just like, that's so cool. But I love it too when games do that. The thank you for playing. It's a good game. Like, I don't want to make it sound like I didn't like it. It was a very good game. And I do think people should play it. Be mindful of the yeah, see, I'll skip through this next time because I haven't actually beaten Frozen Wilds yet. I think people need to be able to play it in order to appreciate it, but be mindful that a lot of people who talk about this think of it as a very huge deal and consider it, and it's all opinion. It's very much all opinion, and they are very much entitled to that. But be careful what happened with me, and try to go in as blind as you can. Assumingly, you're probably watching this after watching the entire stream of it anyway. But if you're watching it on the other channel, here's some information. Be careful. I think if you get told so much that a game is really fucking good, it could have a negative effect if it doesn't reach that thought in your mind as to this is what it's going to be. So I think at this point right now I'm trying to see if I recognize any other names. I know I saw Ashley Birch earlier, and we talked about that in a previous stream. And it never dawned on me. Like, I never I didn't even really try to figure it out. And then when somebody said Ashley Birch, I was like, now I can't unhear it. So, I think the game also is a very good one and done. I don't know if I can see there being a Horizon Zero Dawn 2. And I don't know if I want there to be a Horizon Zero Dawn 2. Mainly because guess what? You have this entire story of like machines coming in and blah blah blah, and we just kind of took care of that. So what do you do after that? I don't know. I think it would be nice to have another game with Aloy as a character, because I like Aloy a lot. Her design's awesome. Her personality's great. I think because it's not robotic or anything like that, her personality is very pragmatic, I want to say, or analytic. Like, it's very much like, I have to do this, blah 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 blah, like that type of thing. And not oh, there's Liam. And not this over the top. I'm not just saying her, because there are a lot of characters that are over the top in other games that you play as. But she's very down to earth. Pragmatic's the word that I keep coming to. Logical. Curious is another good one. And she's definitely worth being a main character of a game. And like I said, I would love to see her in other games. But I don't know if I want to see a Horizon Zero Dawn 2. It's just that thing of like, it works as its own thing, and what would you do as a new one? Because I mean, you could theoretically, I'm betting if I go back into the game right now with all the DLC, all the enemies are still going to be there. It's going to be as if nothing happened, because why would it? But there are some new things happening in the Frozen Wilds DLC. You've got a couple or some new enemies. You've got the towers. You've got all of that, and that could be enough. But then the other thing too, and who knows, there could be something after the credits too. But why would Aloy leave now? Like, it's not necessarily that she's been brought back into the fold with all of the Nora, but I could very well see her coming back as part of it. So I don't know. I really don't know. It's good shit, but I kind of want it to be encapsulated in as is. But who knows? They might, if they do a Horizon Zero Dawn 2, it could also be very good and just not anything that I can conceptually think of right now. Yeah, I don't know what I always let this play, and I think I've gotten my point across as to what I think of it. I like the leveling. The difficulty curve is actually interesting because every time you go into a new area, it seems very difficult. Like, especially when the first time you come across, not the Stalker, it's right when you leave Nora territory. You look at that and you're like, shit, fuck, like it's hard. And then now at the end of it, I can almost go one-on-one with it, melee, because I've been able to I've upgraded enough of my weapons. I put power into, or put some of the skills into correct places where I'm now able to knock them down, knock some of the big machines down, so I can then kill it with a critical hit, or at least do a lot of damage. It legitimately took me until that last fight to figure out the fire mechanic. I knew that icon was always there, and I knew it eventually, like, as it was on fire, I could see the white circle around it. I never knew what caught it on fire. And it wasn't until that last fight that I noticed that there was a gauge that was filling with each hit. And then once it filled up, then it was caught on fire. I was like, well, that would have been good to know. But I think I was always trying to shoot for weak points. And that may have been the wrong choice in some of those instances. I kind of wish there was more weaponry or weapon possibilities or armor possibilities. It felt like that was one thing that I always felt like it was kind of lacking in. But in the end too, is like, it's all base armor or all base weapons, and then you can kind of make it your own with all the modifications that you can get. But at most you can get 3 modifications on it, and sometimes it may not be what exactly you want. But I guess the other thing too is, maybe if you like to, because this is, I think, the thing that's it bothers me. It's not a deal. It's just something that I felt like I wanted and I didn't get. I wanted that Karja like bird looking one. I wanted that again. But I wanted that to be an updated version. But it seems like all the updated versions didn't give you that. And I was like, that's disappointing, because I would love to get a purple version of that. But of course you don't.